It is the Monday, October 27th edition of the NFL Spotlight Show. I am your host, Ari Meirov. Week 8 of the NFL season officially wraps up tonight. We have a good one with the Washington Commanders starting Marcus Mariota taking on the Kansas City Chiefs to wrap up the week. What a week 8 it was. Not as entertaining as previous weeks. In fact, from all the early games and the late window games, only one of them was not a final score of 10 or more points for the winner. So 10 or more points, the team won. Only one game was actually very close, which was the Bengals and Jets game. Jets getting their first win of the year. Let's talk about some of the things that happened here around the NFL. Let me bring in my good friend Ben Allen. Ben, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it was a ton of blowouts across the board. I think even like a lot of them you look at and you know, I don't know how many people really necessarily thought that the Miami Dolphins were going to blow the Falcons out of the water with Kirk Cousins, probably with a lot to prove going out there. He obviously didn't look good. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But one of the games that wasn't necessarily a surprise, but very, very forceful win is what we saw from the Indianapolis Colts in their absolutely dominant win over the Tennessee Titans. Jonathan Taylor, Daniel Jones, just an all-out bashing of a team that was far superior over a team that is very much still trying to get their bearings. Dive in on this one. Let me know what you think. Jonathan Taylor, another 3-touchdown performance, just absolute bananas.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted it. I think it's time to put him into the MVP conversation. What he's been doing this year has been outstanding. 14 touchdowns on the year. Now his fourth game this year with 3 touchdowns in a game. He has been truly unstoppable. And really, the MVPs of the Colts might just be the offensive line, which does not get talked about enough. You know, Will Fries left and Ryan Kelly left, and they thought there might be some, holes. That front five, which has started every game this year, has been outstanding left to right. Bernard Ryman, Quentin Nelson on the right side, Braden Smith. Like some of these guys who play up front, they've been opening up holes. Some of the screen grabs that you find online of the holes they're opening up for Jonathan Taylor, it's really been cool to see. And really, the entire offense is clicking. Shane Steichen finally has his quarterback. It is Daniel Jones who's playing turnover-free football. And really, he's getting everybody involved, which is the other part that I love about this. Like you see Michael Pittman and you see Alec Pierce. I feel like every week Alec Pierce plays, he has one of those big, deep ball catches in a game. He's really, really good at that. Impending free agent, by the way. He's going to get paid this offseason, whether it's going to be in Indy or somewhere else. Josh Downs is getting the ball. Tyler Warren's getting the ball. And, of course, Jonathan Taylor as well. Really love this Colts team. They're now 7-1 on the year, the best record in the NFL. And really, when you look at their schedule so far this year, the amount of points they've scored so far this year in every single game, 33, 29, 41. The loss was 20 points, and they had 40, 31, 38, 38. And really, that game where they lost, where they had 20 points, you could probably blame Adonai Mitchell for taking up 14 points on the board in that game alone for the holding on a Jonathan Taylor touchdown. And, of course, his dropped ball before crossing the plane for a touchdown. So this offense has been clicking on all cylinders so far this year. And really the next big task of the year is really they have not had the crazy big time competition game so far this year. Like the Broncos when they beat them in week 2, it obviously came down to the final seconds. If not for that penalty, they should have lost. The Chargers game was definitely impressive, but keep in mind, LA was down their top 2 tackles. These next few weeks, this is some real challenges coming up with the Steelers next week, then the Falcons, an international game, and then that's where it gets really interesting. The Chiefs, which right now it's a 1 o'clock Eastern game, that game's got to get flexed at the minimum to a lay window game, and then a divisional game with the Houston Texans. So 4 very challenging games coming up against 4 pretty good defenses here to see how they fare in those games. Again, the Colts have been really impressive, but some of those wins have been against the Dolphins, twice against the Titans, the Cardinals, the Raiders. This is some of the big dogs in the NFL coming up over here on the schedule. But the Colts are for real, and I think Jonathan Taylor is a player who, in my mind, right now, going into Week 9, I think he's atop of the MVP list in the NFL, which is rare for a running back.
Well, and if you're in that agreement with Ari, this might be the right time to head over to FanDuel. This isn't even a plug. We're not supposed to be plugging this right now. 8th in odds right now to win the MVP. You look at the list, top of the list is Patrick Mahomes, I think that's it's a good name to be competing against. But good lordy, you see what he's doing every single week right now? He is plus 2,000 on the MVP odds. I think that's a guy that when you look at the whole picture and you think, yeah, maybe he's a top 3 guy right now. I mean, that's not an exaggeration to say, right? He's got 14 touchdowns.
He is the stir that basically makes this offense go. I mean, they start with him and they end with him and they push him down the throat of each defense and it works. And Ben, you actually gave me this stat. You texted this to me earlier today. Point differential right now in the NFL, Colts are plus 116. The next closest team right now is plus 67 with the Patriots. Again, 110. What is it? Sorry, 116 to 67. What a differential that is. And
It was
we still
double the next closest team.
that's crazy. We still have the Chiefs coming up tonight who are plus 62, but still, that is a crazy point differential so far this year. And again, it's Jonathan Taylor and it's everyone over here in this Colts offense. I still don't think a running back's going to win MVP. You really have to do something crazy like Adrian Peterson did years ago, but I don't think there's been a quarterback that has truly taken it so far. And it's a wide open race, which is why I think Jonathan Taylor right now is at the very top.
I mean, he's on pace for over 28 total touchdowns right now. And assuming that he probably doesn't play in the final week, he is 28. I don't know. I'm not saying go throw all the money down on a running back to win it, but it's definitely interesting. But speaking of throwing money, Daniel Jones is earning some money right now, isn't he?
Daniel Jones, who everyone was like, how did he get that contract with the Giants, is right now in line to do it again over here with the Colts. And again, I've said it before on this show. I'll say it again. You see the confidence, you see the happiness, you see that he enjoys playing football again. And this is, Shane Steichen has worked with many quarterbacks around the NFL. He worked with Justin Herbert, had success with him, worked with Jalen Hurts, had success with him. He couldn't find success with Anthony Richardson. He's the one who told Chris Ballard, hey, we got to get somebody else over here at the very minimum to bring in competition. And Daniel Jones was his pick. And he's able to just run the offense, do it smoothly, do it in a way where they're getting in and out of the huddle without any problems, getting the ball to his receivers in a timely fashion. You hear from all the players in the building. Michael Pittman, I think, said this on the record to one of the reporters. Daniel gets in the morning and is there until very late at night and is right back there at 5 in the morning. Like he's there all the time. He breathes football, eats football, and 1 year contract right now. He is slated with the way this is going to go out there and get possibly a franchise tag or at the very minimum an extension over here with the Colts to stay as their long-term franchise quarterback, which is a really cool story, not just for Daniel, but also for the Colts who have been trying for so long to find that guy since Andrew Luck, right? And we went through the Jacoby Brissett and Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan and Anthony Richardson and on and on and on. Gardner Minshew got a chance, like all these different things going on over here. Finally, they might have their guy. It's Daniel Jones, and good for him and good for the Colts. I mean, football in Indianapolis being fun again. It's been a very long time. Those fans are packing the stadium, and there's no better time to do it right now than the first year when their owner passed away, passed it over to his daughters, and to have the success they're having right now, it's pretty cool. And Jim is watching on them, that's for sure.
Well, it may not be considered the quite as much success as what you're seeing with the Indianapolis Colts, but the Jets got a little bit of success on Sunday. That's right. Aaron Glenn, first-year head coach, gets his first win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Tight one there. Joe Flacco got his first rushing touchdown since I think it's 2017, which is a crazy stat to throw out there. Justin Fields, big chip on his shoulder in this one. Looked pretty solid. Break this one down for me. What should the Jets fans be hopeful about? Obviously, playoffs probably not going to be in the picture for this year. 1-7, but it's a win.
I mean, listen, the owner comes out last week and just completely annihilates the quarterback and says that this is somebody who could just complete a pass over here. And you think he's done in New York, 2-year, $40 million contract down the drain. The Jets responded with over 500 yards in total offense. And again, this is an organization who woke up to some awful news this morning. Nick Mangold, their franchise icon, longtime center, drafted by Mike Tannenbaum, our boss over here, passes away suddenly after a battle with a kidney disease and a kidney failure here. And really was shocking to everybody. And he actually Nick Mangold grew up close to Cincinnati, about 40 miles away, and now here are the Jets playing in Cincinnati, and they go in there and they beat the Bengals in Cincinnati. And I had a bunch of different people sending me these different things throughout the course of the day about Nick Mangold, and one of the cool ones that I actually saw was the Jets had only two quarterbacks active today because Tyrod Taylor was out. It was Justin Fields and it was Brady Cook. The jersey numbers of those two guys is 7 and 4, which is Nick Mangold's number. Like some of the crazy things you're getting out here today, like Nick was really watching the Jets today to get them their first win of the year. A lot of those different type of texts I was getting throughout the course of today. It was definitely some sad news, but for the Jets to go out there, get their first win of the year, and really you got to give credit to Aaron Glenn, who has been getting a lot of negativity towards him and a lot of heat towards him and hot seat stuff towards him. He genuinely had one of the more better coached games of the year, really pushed every correct button you could think of when to do this and when to do that. There was one point in the game down by 14. They score a touchdown with 8 minutes remaining, a Brees Hall touchdown. And he did the analytics move, which was go for two and make this a 6-point game. If you fail, you're still an 8-point game, go for two the next try. If you convert, your next touchdown is to win the game. And that actually played out perfectly over here. The next touchdown was a Brees Hall passing touchdown to Mason Taylor, the rookie tight end. But the offense responded in a big way. It was really cool to see. The defense did just enough over here. And one of the underrated moves the Jets made a couple of weeks ago, Jason Brownlee, they traded for him from the Tennessee Titans. He actually was locking down some of those Bengals receivers throughout the course of the day, and he made the game-winning pass deflection on the fourth down to seal the win for the New York Jets. But kudos to them. Again, Aaron Glenn and his people, they've been hampering on this pretty much these last few weeks, internally, externally. Like, listen, this was going to take time. We're trying to build a culture. Dan Camel, when he took over in Detroit, he started 0-11-1. It's going to take some time. I do think the Jets roster compared to that Lions roster is way better, but it's going to take time. We'll see what to do with the trade deadline, but it was pretty cool to see them win. And as for Cincinnati, it's a bit of a gut punch for them because if they would have won this game, they would be at 4-4. You still have hopes of Joe Burrow coming back later. Maybe you make a trade deadline deal. Now you're 3-5, and you have the Bears coming up over here next week. But good for the Jets, and there are no more winless teams around the NFL.
No more winless teams across the NFL, but we do have a new winless quarterback in the NFL with somebody we already spoke about a few minutes ago. That being Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons in a very much a rout, which the 10 points at the end, definitely a little bit, not quite 10 throughout the whole game. Not a very good showing offensively. Obviously, no Drake London out there as well. Bijan Robinson was a non-factor for the Falcons in this game. Dolphins, though, pretty good. Dive into this one. What were your biggest takeaways from this game?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Bijan Robinson stat line. He finished this game with 9 carries for 25 yards and also lost a fumble. The last 3 running backs to face this Dolphins defense over the last few weeks were Kinshawn Judkins, who had 80 yards and 3 touchdowns, Kimani Vidal from the Chargers, who had 124 rushing yards, and Rico Dowdle, who had 206 rushing yards and a touchdown. Bijan Robinson, arguably, top 3 running back in the NFL, was held down to 25 yards in this game. Part of the most shocking stat line that we had over here in week 8. But the Atlanta Falcons continue to be the NFL's most confusing team, and I think by far. I mean, if you look at week 2, they go out there Sunday Night Football, they beat the Vikings, made it look easy against J.J. McCarthy. The very next week, in week 3, they lose to the winless Panthers 30-0. Like, what just happened? And then you go on a bit of a 2-game winning streak. You beat the Washington Commanders. You beat the Buffalo Bills. Those were 2 teams who were in the Final Four last year. And now all of a sudden you're back on a 2-game losing streak versus the 49ers last week on Sunday Night Football. Just a complete no-show. And then this week versus the previously 1-win Miami Dolphins, you lose 34-10. And I don't want to hear the excuse that Kirk Cousins was the quarterback in this game. That is the highest paid backup quarterback in football, making $40 million this year, and somebody who you've been adamant you're not trading this entire offseason, even though there were some teams who would be willing to trade for him if you ate some of the money. So this was an embarrassing performance by the Atlanta Falcons, who continue to be the most difficult team to figure out in the NFL. And it's not getting any easier because their next two games over here are against the 6-2 Patriots and the 7-1 Colts coming up. So they've had some of these prime opportunities here to stay in it in the NFC South, be right behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and hopefully have another game versus the Buccaneers coming up later in the year where maybe, just maybe, you could take over the division. But some of these losses, some of these performances, Raheem Morris keeps on saying it's every single week you either get humbled or you perform really well. This is like the second or third time this year where they've been humbled in a really, really bad way. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's very, very confusing. And I just can't figure out what this team truly is. And we're already going into week 9.
Speaking of confusing, I don't know what is going to be considered real with the tush push and what's not. There was another very, very interesting drama between the New York Giants and the Eagles in a game that was an 18-point difference in points. Cam Scatterbo gets hurt. But really, one of the biggest things that's coming away from this, and it's so frustrating to keep having to talk about this, what feels like very frequently throughout the seasons for the last couple of years. Tush push, Jalen Hurts is getting pushed, ball comes loose. They end up saying, forward progress, stop, but he's still getting pushed. What's going on, Ari? Why is this happening still?
Right. I want to preface this because Eagles fans think I just hate the Eagles. I really don't know why. I was one of the people who has been very adamant at keeping the tush push in the game for a number of years. Like I've said it before, this is a play that the Eagles are really good at, and you should not take a play away from the game if there's only one team that's really good at it and other teams are not so good. I've said it before. I said it many times over the years. But what has been going on over here over these last several weeks and really all season long is that it's clearly becoming a play that is becoming difficult to officiate or becoming very messy, from the consistent missed false starts to what happened on Sunday where Jalen Hurts is quite literally getting his tush pushed, which is the whole point of the play, and he fumbles the ball gets taken away, and for whatever reason, the quickest whistle in the history of football happens. If this is what the tush push is going to become and they cannot officiate it correctly, eventually it's going to be taken out of the rule book. That's really what I believe is going to happen. Earlier this year, the Eagles, I believe it was versus the Giants as well, ran it 4 straight times. I'm just telling you, there are people in the league office who are sick and tired of the play, who wanted it to be banned in the offseason when I was against it getting banned. I thought it should not get banned. I said it should stay in the NFL because the Eagles are really good at it and deal with it. But if this is what it's becoming, where it's essentially a situation where we keep on having these flaws and mistakes and the officials can't rule on it and they're making all these mistakes, the NFL is going to get rid of it. And I feel very confident right now. Here we are on October 27th. This is the final year that tush push is going to be in the NFL rulebook. It's going to be out of here after this season. I don't think the NFL owners want it. I don't think Roger Goodell wants it. If Roger Goodell has to twist some arms to make sure he has enough votes, he's going to get it. I don't think they enjoy the play. I think the NFL wants to see strategy with 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. Are you going to run it? Are you going to throw it? Are you going to do a play action? Could you do a traditional quarterback sneak? That is what the NFL wants to see. They don't want to see these rugby scrubs. They don't want to see it 4 times in a row. They don't want to see the whistle being blown early. They don't want to see missed false starts. And that's kind of what we're getting right now. So I think a lot of opinions have changed here over the last 2 years, where a lot of people were, hey, the tush push is great. The Eagles are really good at it, and you have to deal with it. It's part of the NFL. Try to figure it out. To it's gotten to a point where it's no longer a real play that anybody enjoys watching, aside from, I guess, Philadelphia fans, which I think if you're an Eagles fan and you watch that on Sunday, you have to agree that should have been a fumble. And that's kind of where we are right now with this play. So I would be stunned if it's not out of the rule book at the end of this season once the owners meet in March. I would be willing, like, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I would say right now this plays out of the rule book, and the Eagles should enjoy and do it as much as they could the rest of the season. I think the Eagles have a hunch that it's happening, which is why they did it 4 straight times in front of a primetime audience. I think they know this is over. It was basically almost taken out in March, in the owners' meetings in March. Last year, I think there were 2 or 3 votes shy of getting it banned. I think they know it's gone, so they're going to do as much as they could the rest of this year. But this is the final year we're having it. And Sunday was the latest debacle that we had.
I think the other thing too is that the NFL hates anything that takes away from the product that's considered like the normal product on the field. It's a distraction. I think the league, Goodell and stuff, he's tired of seeing these headlines because as much as we say NFL is all about money, they know what the public perception is.
I agree. I agree. You don't want to see all these different shows starting with the tush push. I think they hated it last year. I mean, it was such a big topic of discussion all of last year. I mean, after the NFC Championship game where the Eagles routed the Commanders, one of the big headlines was Frankie Louvu jumping over the thingy for 4 straight minutes. I mean,
To be funny, very funny.
it was very funny,
Yep.
but still, I'll tell you this much: there are people in the league office who did not find it funny. They thought it was outrageous. So that's kind of where it stands. So I think it's the final year. They don't want to talk about it anymore. It's going to be part of football history, that's for sure. Jalen Hurts squat 600 pounds, whatever it is. He's impressive. The Eagles are really good at it, but it's gotten to a point where there's just too many flaws with the play. The officials are sometimes calling false starts, sometimes not calling false starts. They're missing obvious stuff. It's not what it's meant to be. If it was just the Eagles are really good at doing it, that's fine. But it's extended to way more than that. And I think Eagles fans, if you really just take the fandom away for a second, I think they would agree with me. That's really the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say. Ari, anything else that we missed here in week 8 that you want to talk about?
I mean, it was a lot of action here in week 8. Obviously, we had Aaron Rodgers playing against his former Packers team. We're actually recording that mid game. And I think I won't say what I think is going to happen because that might be an old takes exposes eventually. But um, yeah, but overall, a pretty good Sunday. Patriots now 6-2. How about your Ravens getting back in the win column with no Lamar Jackson? I actually do want to talk about that for a second.
You had some
Um,
strong thoughts on Snoop Huntley not being the backup to start.
we spoke about that earlier this year. Cooper Rush becoming the backup was the most odd signing of the offseason. But I do want to talk about the Lamar Jackson thing from over the weekend for a second. I do think that the NFL is not happy with how that all unfolded. Not because if this was a regular week and it unfolded, I think it would just go away, whatever. Because of what happened with the NBA last week with all the gambling stuff and Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, this happening with Lamar Jackson in this week in particular, I do wonder if the NFL tries to make them as an example. Now, I'm not saying take away draft picks or suspend somebody or whatever, but
Explain that, Ari, what happened. For those who may have missed it, explain for those.
yeah. Let's backtrack here. You're right, Ben. So the Ravens on Friday listed Lamar Jackson as a full participant in practice. John Harbaugh said he was a full participant. We'll see what happens on Sunday. If he plays or not, we're not sure. They list him as questionable. Now, keep in mind, before the bye, the Ravens said that we expect Lamar Jackson to return after the bye. So everybody was ready for Lamar Jackson to play on Sunday. Being a full participant in practice is always a good sign. And if you checked the betting markets, they had the Ravens as heavy favorites. If you checked fantasy websites, they had Lamar Jackson projected to have 21 points, whatever it was. Like everybody was prepared for him to start. Then all of a sudden on Saturday, we get reports that he only took scout team reps during practice on Friday, and he was changed from a full participant to a limited participant, and he was downgraded from questionable to out for the game. As soon as that happens, all the betting markets changed, all the fantasy stuff he's marked as out. Everyone goes crazy. Tyler Huntley's now the starting quarterback. Essentially, the way the NFL's practice participation works is that if you are a starting quarterback, for you to be deemed a full participant in practice, you have to be taking starter reps in practice. Lamar Jackson took all the practice squad reps, and even though it was a full participant as a practice squad player, he's obviously a starting quarterback. So he should have gotten a limited tag on Friday. The Ravens said on Sunday after the game, John Harbaugh said it was an honest mistake. It was not like we're trying to hide something, but still, the fact that all of this happened in this week after what happened with the NBA is why I think the NFL might come down a little bit hard on the Ravens via a fine, or whatever that is, and say, hey, this is integrity of the game. We cannot have all this stuff going on. We know how, the NBA is getting hit really hard about this. And it's something that a lot of people within NFL circles have wondered, does the NFL go to another level? The other level that I'm talking about is these practices are for the most part closed to the public. No reporters could go in, No media could go in. And really, the NFL, whatever it's the media people, the PR people, they're the ones who do the statuses of, full practice or, limited practice or whatever. So some people have wondered if the NFL is going to assign somebody like you have the independent neurologist for a concussion, have an independent guy to check what's the actual practice participation. Like, to this is the extent people are thinking because of the gambling world that we are in and how accessible it has become and how vital information is and the whole insider information, which was the Terry Rozier thing and the Damon Jones thing, and to an extent the Chauncey Billups thing. We don't want that in the NFL. Does the NFL go to extra mile now to make sure it doesn't come into the NFL? Because if you're a Ravens player, you knew Lamar took practice squad reps only. You knew he's likely out this week. You could have texted your friends, hey, like Lamar's not playing this week, by the way.
And this is what happened with the former player Damon Jones and what was expected to be connected to LeBron James's availability for certain games, which he ended up actually playing in one of the games in which he allegedly told that he would be out.
And the people want their money back.
Because LeBron had nothing to do with this, as
Right.
far as everything's being reported.
Right, but Lamar is taking practice squad reps. If you're a practice squad player who's making the minimum of all minimum in the NFL, you telling your friends, yo, Lamar's not playing this week, That's kind of like the situation the NFL is in right now. And that's why I'm very curious to see what the results are here with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens with this whole saga and fiasco, which again, I really don't think they meant it to come out this way, but it did. And we'll see what the NFL responds with.
It's an interesting place we are in the world of sports and everything that comes along with it. And that's why we're here, Ari, to break it all down, talk about all of the latest news from around the NFL here on NFL Spotlight. We've got more Spotlight guests in the works. We're still working through all our scheduling with all our wonderful guests. We're going to continue to pump out some great content here, talking about all the latest news. And Ari, unless there's anything else you want to hit, I think we are good to go.
That will do it here for our Monday, October 27 edition of the NFL Spotlight Show. We will be back here tomorrow. Tomorrow is officially 1 week away from the NFL trade deadline. We have lots to talk about when it comes to that as well here on the show this week. We will see all of you here tomorrow morning.